It's that 70s vibe, those angles of the case and bracelets. The PRX grabbed everyone's attention when it came out, and it is still going strong. The automatic version will set you back around $700 or more, but this quartz version can be had for under $400. This is the Tissot PRX. At the time of this video, you can pick up this watch at Amazon for $339 or head on over to tissotwatches.com and pick it up for $395. Hey everyone, if you're thinking about the PRX watch, and let's face it, a lot of people are, it is still an extremely popular watch. I think there are three things you need to consider. 1, do you think the dial needs a little bit more going on? 2, how do you feel about a quartz in this style of watch? And 3, you have to ask yourself, are you going to be okay with that butterfly clasp? Now we're going to take a closer look at this watch so you can answer those questions for yourself. Hey everyone, if you're enjoying these videos, please do me a favor and consider subscribing. It would really help out the channel. Now let's get on with the review. The case construction is 316L stainless steel with a diameter coming in at 40 millimeters. For a lug-to-lug distance, technically we have 45 millimeters, but with that integrated bracelet, it's really more of a 51.5 millimeters. Now, if that is too large for you, fear not, Tissot has you covered. They also offer this watch in a 35 millimeter version. For an overall thickness, we have 10.5 millimeters. Now, like I said, it is a rather large lug-to-lug distance, but surprisingly, it still fits nicely on my 7-inch wrist. So let's get a couple things clear. The style, the fit and finish, and the price are exactly what you're buying a watch like this for. The fit and finish on this quartz version is the same as what you get on the automatic version, which sells for almost double the price. Looking close, we see there's a nice tight brushed finish here, and the geometry of the case and the bracelet may have that 1970s steep angle design language going on, but make no mistake, there are no sharp edges anywhere to be found. Everything has a nice attention to detail given to it. The finishing on this watch is very impressive. In fact, I would say it is one of the main selling points. And here's why. It is this mesmerizing effect when you roll the watch back and forth on your wrist. The way the light reflects back at you. Now, I have one watch in my personal collection that does the same thing, but that watch is easily twice the price. Turning the watch over, on the back of the watch, we have a rather generic press-on case back. There's really not much going on here. Just some text that includes Tissot 1853, stainless steel, sapphire crystal, and water-resistant 10 bar or 100 meters. Now I am a little surprised that they got 100 meters of water resistance with a snap-on case back. But putting that aside for a moment, the downside to a snap-on case back, in my opinion, is that it is much more likely to get scratched up when trying to remove it for things such as replacing the battery. Moving on, that quartz movement inside, that is the ETA F06115 movement. And that is an affordable Swiss quartz movement with 3 jewels. It is part of ETA's entry-level Treadline series, which debuted back in 2019. It features hard drive technology, an estimated 5-year battery life, and an end-of-life low battery indicator. Now this watch of course also comes with an automatic version using the Powermatic 80 for around $700. But in my opinion, if there was ever a time to get a quartz, it would be in a watch that was designed with that 70s, 80s look to it. You know, back when quartz was dominating the industry. At the 3 o'clock position, we have a signed crown with a Tissot T on it. It is roughly 5 millimeters in width and 3.5 millimeters in depth. It is small, but I did find it easy to grip and to pull out. And the overall size fits nicely with the thin profile of the watch. Now this is a simple push-pull crown. Pulling it out to the first position and rotating it sets the date. Pulling it out to the second position packs the second hand and sets the time. Moving on to the face of the watch, we have a white minute track printed on black. And inside of that, we have applied metallic stick indices on a black dial. Now the indices are applied, but honestly, there's not a lot of depth to them. In fact, these may be some of the thinnest applied indices I've ever seen. The rectangle indice has been doubled up side by side at the 12 o'clock position to emphasize the full hour marker. Below that 12 o'clock, we find the Tissot logo, which is again surprisingly printed directly on the dial. The logo is not applied here. Further down the dial, on the other side of the center post, we find the letters PRX. And at the 3 o'clock position, we have a date window with the dates appearing black on white. The date window is a decent size, but the font used could be bolder. It is not the easiest date to read, especially when in a dim environment. Overall, the dial is rather clean and straightforward, and that is in keeping with the straight lines of the case itself. But it also means that there's just not a lot going on with the dial. In my opinion, a pop of color would help out a lot here. Tissot gives you a lot of different color options and strap options to choose from. There are 16 options even if you're just looking at the quartz version. This black dial is fine, but you might want to look at the dark blue or the dark green colors, and especially look at this light green color. Depending on the color, the dial may have a texture or a sunburst pattern going on. I think that is what is missing with this black version. It just needs a little something extra. It needs a touch of spice, a little paprika. The hands here have also been kept simple and are loomed with the same superluminova found on the indices. Now, on this specific watch, the second hand does align with the minute track all the way around. Obviously, the second hand on a quartz version ticks, as opposed to being that smooth second hand you can get on an automatic. But given the whole throwback to the 70s vibe that's going on here, I don't mind. Again, the 70s was kind of the pinnacle of quartz watches, so I absolutely would get the quartz version of this watch. In my opinion, if you're gonna go all in. Now, I've heard people say that the lume on this watch is not great, but in my everyday experience, it did exactly what I ask of a watch. For anyone who doesn't know, my everyday lume test consists of wearing a watch, getting an average amount of light exposed to it, and then setting it alongside my bedside table and seeing if I can read the time at 4 in the morning. In the middle of the night, when my eyes are fully dilated, that is when I want to know if I can read the time. And again, this watch did pass my everyday lume test. For the crystal, this watch of course comes with a sapphire crystal, as you would expect from Tissot. There was some reflections going on, but not more than expected. And that brings us to the bracelet. It tapers down from 27.5 millimeters wide at the lugs to 18 millimeters at the clasp. It is a signed clasp with Tissot and 1853 etched into it. It is a butterfly clasp, which of course means there are 0 micro adjustments. I'm pretty sure that this is everyone's least favorite style of clasp. Even with a couple of half links that you can remove, chances are that it'll either be a little snug or a little loose on you. On the plus side, there are no sharp edges anywhere on the bracelet or the clasp. For the bracelet itself, the flat surface of the bracelet is the perfect match for this style of watch in my opinion. It really plays up that 70s vibe. The ends of each individual link have a high polish treatment. That, plus the reflective nature of the brushed areas, really takes this watch to another level. We have solid links as well as solid end links with a quick release system. The bracelet is thinner and lighter than I was expecting it to be. There is very good articulation and it is actually quite comfortable on the wrist. Now, one very important thing to mention here is that Tissot does offer this watch on a rubber and a leather strap, and with those, you do get the standard buckle instead of the butterfly clasp. Gone is the mesmerizing roll of the bracelet, but in its place, at least potentially, is a better fit. Is it worth the trade-off? You know, only you can judge that for yourself. So let's list out the specs for this watch. We have a sapphire crystal, a quartz movement, a diameter of 40 millimeters, thickness of 10.5 millimeters, a water resistance of 100 meters, and finally an effective lug-to-lug distance of 51.5 millimeters. So let's go over the pros and cons. For pros, aesthetics. You gotta love that 70s look. The bracelet is absolutely mesmerizing. You get a sapphire crystal, it's very legible, and the fits and finish, it's the same as on the higher priced automatic version. For cons, you get that lug-to-lug distance, and there's also no micro adjustments on the butterfly clasp. So my final thoughts on this watch. With the options that Tissot is offering, I can see why this is so popular. Personally, I would make 3 suggestions. 1, definitely look at the colored dials. In my opinion, the dial needs just a little bit more going on. 2, I would absolutely recommend picking up the quartz instead of the auto. You get the same fit and finish, the same 70s styling, and just as I said before, I think the quartz just feels at home here. And 3, I would try that butterfly clasp, and if that doesn't work, then I would go for the rubber strap. Okay, my friends, that is it. Until the next time, remember, buy whatever it is that you love. This is your watch collection after all. I'll see you in the next video.